Don't cross the live stream, man. I'm crossing the live stream. Non Sequitur Show is currently streaming about this. And I'm sure they're going to do a far better job talking about this soul phone than I am. But a lot of people wanted in to talk about this, and they can't get in necessarily. And so, I thought, well, I'll do it. I'll talk about this. Because I wanted to talk about the web page. Because I went to their web page, and then I looked up an image reversed Gary Schwartz. Found some of his books on Amazon, and I couldn't post the links in chat. So I just wanted to read the Soul Phone Reserved Foundation's website to you and see if anyone wants to join in and talk about this nonsense with me, or I think everyone's going to be hanging out with the Non Sequitur Show for a while, so I don't know that I'll get that many people coming over to talk to me about this, but whatever. So the Non Sequitur Show had this guy on that's like a spokesman for this thing called the Soul Phone. That's like right now he described it as a switch, like an on-off switch. That you can ask it yes or no questions, and like you play 20 question games with it, and then like you can figure out, if it's Einstein or whoever. And they had the top mediums help them out to develop this technology. See, I was going to be skeptical of this as being bullshit until they told me that they had the top mediums. Oh, well, that's different. You have the top mediums working on this, and then they'd call in like, oh yeah, like I'm seeing the word Einstein and the one called in like transistor, like diode, resist. Does that mean anything to you? And he's like, oh yeah, that's the problem that I was having with this technology. Oh yeah, So who knows if that actually happened, where mediums actually were involved in this or not. I really don't care if that part is true, but it just adds to the lore of this story. And that's all we have right now, by the way, is just a story, because apparently, according to the spokesperson, this technology is too new, and that Non Sequitur Show has gotten this huge scoop because they're not ready to put out all the science of it. They're not ready to show the data yet. There's a lot of things they're not ready to do yet, like answer questions. They're definitely not ready to do that. But what they are ready to do is have a website that looks pretty, it looks pretty professional-ish. But you can definitely donate right now to the Soul Phone Foundation. And the spokesman guy was saying, like, it's at, like, 90% accuracy. Really? And you're not ready to show that yet? I mean, even if it was just, like, well, he said light switch, but I think it's, like, maybe a light that goes on for yes and maybe blinks twice for no or something like that. But regardless of what it is, okay, there's certainly a way that would be testable, demonstrably so. And if you're getting 90%, that's pretty darn good. And, but there are the 20 question game programs that can be programmed to do that, where it's like, okay, think of something. And then, it just asks you questions, but there it's asking you questions that you're answering versus you asking it. So, there might be, there's a lot of things that could account for false positives in that situation. So, you'd have to, have it like triple blinded. But anyways, so the website's the soulphonefoundation.org. Actually, they have a shorter version that will also lead to that website. The soulphone.org will it will just forward you to that website. I love that it's reserved. I love that they've trademarked Soul Phone, because this is going to be cutting edge technology. Anyway, so on that website that I'm going to talk about, the Skeptic Corner, because, well, I'm a skeptic, and that's the immediate, I wanted to go immediately to that, read what they have to say there, and that's what I'm going to do. So here's the Skeptic Corner. Link for that's in the description of this live chat if you want to look at it yourself. I'm going to read it out loud and, just go insane as I try to tell you why it's wrong. So they have Carl Sagan here, who they don't deserve to have on their website, but they do. And they got a quote from him: "At the heart of science is an essential balance between two seemingly contradictory attitudes: an openness to new ideas, no matter how bizarre or counterintuitive they might be, and the most ruthless skeptical scrutiny of all ideas, old and new. This is how deep truths are winnowed from deep nonsense." Okay, yeah. So, and it says, consider that quotation from the left from Dr. Carl Sagan. Yeah, and Dr. Sagan, a distinguished astronomer, communicator of science, was highly respected by scientists and the general public. And he appreciated skepticism. Yeah, okay. So, then they get to the meat of this, which is really what I want to get to. We can ask, does the pursuit of the soul phone TM reflect a case of deep nonsense? The answer is yes. We don't need to go further. Based on frivolous premises and faulty evidence? Yes. Or does the development of soul phone, they forgot to TM at that time, reflect a deep truth of profound theoretical and practical importance? Well, what do you got? What evidence do you have? Closed-minded skeptics. Okay, so here's our ticket out. Here's our get out of jail free card. Closed-minded skeptics will particularly focus on unrelated topics to discredit the science behind this technology. For example, Dr. Torch used to ride a Harley. I don't care. What I do care is that this so-called doctor, which I don't know if he's actually a doctor or not, here on Amazon, he's just called Gary E. Schwartz. So I think that doctor title is not true, but he's got the God experiments, healing energy experiments, afterlife experiments, placebo. Oh, he's got a book on placebo, the living universe, the truth about medium, the sacred, all this bullshit books that he's written. Okay. And oh my God, 63 euros for the afterlife experience. I mean, these are, some of these books are pretty expensive. Some of them aren't, well, it depends if you get them new or used. Okay. But yeah, he's making money off of BS. Okay. So that's what I would care about. I don't care what he's written in the past. Rhonda, whoever the hell that was raised in Christian Science faith. Well, that is kind of important, but it wouldn't matter. And Dr. Pipskick, it just sounds like a made up name, once dressed up as a Hindu yoga. Again, I don't care about any of it. No, that stuff's not important, and skeptics are not going to focus on that. So it's a complete red herring. No, what we're going to focus on is, what are the facts and what evidence do you have to show that those are facts, and what is the truth that bears out? We're gonna find that here in the skeptic corner, which is supposedly going to be geared at the skeptics like me and you, these are going to answer our questions, right? But of course, here's open-minded people, and even open-minded skeptics will examine the data and see where it leads. Great. If you have data, I'd love to do that, but according to the spokesman, they don't have the data yet. It's not available to the public yet, so there's nothing to examine yet. But yet, despite not having the data ready to show the public, they have questions asked and answered on their website. So let's just go to that. Question 1, does established science require that life after physical death is impossible? The answer, no. In fact, the opposite is true. For example, a basic understanding of the physics of light and electromagnetic fields, when integrated with quantum physics, illustrate how our bioenergy and information persist in the vacuum of space, sometimes called the zero-point field, long after physical death. Likewise, the light/energy and information from distant stars persist in space long after the light was emanated from its source star, and even long after the star has died. I'm not done reading, but okay. The only exception here is when some of the light is absorbed by another body in the vacuum of space. Even in the latter case, it's usually eventually re-emitted back into space, a bit at a different frequency. The core tenet of physics is that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transformed. Dr. Edward Michael's body of work on the quantum hologram provides the foundation for the continuation of our personal quantum fields after physical death. Okay. Well, citations? No. There was no what a citations. No, there was no citations for any of that. Okay, that first paragraph is absolutely nonsense. I don't know that much about science, but I can say that it's absolute nonsense. Okay, the starlight coming from a star that's dead is not the same as the energy that is in my brain right now and how it will be transformed after my brain is dead. They are completely different phenomenon. Oh my word. This is not an answer to that question. Plus, not having citations at all is kind of a problem. But this question, because I'm not a scientist, I'll leave it alone. Maybe a scientist can answer this question and see how bad this is worded. But it won't be me. I can deal with question 2 because it dives into the field of logic to some extent. And I'll explain how. So question 2. Are all mediums, people who claim to speak to the deceased, frauds? Yes, it would be my answer. But let's see what they say. No. In fact, over the past 20 years, researchers from 5 different universities and institutes have conducted independent, double-blinded, or even triple-blinded experiments with evidential mediums, establishing that some mediums are genuine. Furthermore, the claim made by some super skeptics that any of the laboratory findings can be explained as due to magician's tricks called cold reading and hot reading is simply false. The carefully designed multiple blinded experiments ruled out these claims as being a rational and responsible explanation for the totality of the findings. So, let's deal with the logic of this, because that's what I'm good at. Well, to some extent. So, 5 different universities, all unnamed, have conducted independent, double-blinded, or triple-blinded experiments, no source given for those experiments. None at all. Nothing. So, you've made a claim, and you have failed to support the claim. In every conceivable way that you could fail to support that claim, you have failed to do so. And you're saying that this has been done over the past 20 years? There would be proof of that. We would have heard about this. There's nothing. Where? Who did this? What universities? Where were they? Who conducted these tests? What were the names of the researchers involved? What were the methodologies employed? Nothing. None of that is here. None of it. Not a single bit. So you have done a formal fallacy, which is failure to give an argument. There's no argument here. There's just a statement being made as if it is true, with no reason to think that it is true. And then you have a poisoning of the well by the word super skeptics, that this is clearly not the magician tricks or cold reading or hot reading, because these tests that we're not telling you what the tests were, by the way, are rule out that. But we don't have those tests to look at. So we don't know that statement is true. So you've, again, failed to give an argument. So beyond the formal fallacy, we have the informal fallacy of poisoning the well. And, that's a problem. And then as far as the experiments ruling out that this could be hot or cold reading, without knowing how these experiments were set up, I cannot deduce that that's a true statement. So the arguments, there's nothing to analyze. I can only identify the one logical fallacy, which doesn't even really matter because the formal fallacy tops it. You don't have an argument. You have a claim that's clearly unsupported and is, I will say, an outright lie. A fractal error is not true, And that's the end of your little skeptic corner. That's it. I'm done. I don't need to answer any other, or look at any of the other stuff, because you're lying. You're lying to all of us right now on your website. This is a blatant lie. So, hey, expression of mistrust. Yeah, Carl Sagan would have probably asked where it's published. In fairness, if light emitted by your corpse, that's really not you anymore, any more than a fart emitted by your corpse is you. Right? Yeah. Yeah. The heat that's coming off of us as we live, and the light that's coming off of us as we live, will go into space and exist for however long it's able to do so. But that's not me. That's nothing like me. I don't, I mean, pieces of my body are falling off right now as I speak, but none of those pieces are me. The dead skin is not me. So dead hair is not me. The spittle that I spit out as I'm yelling at this website, that's not me. My brain and some of my spinal cord and other parts probably are me. And when those aren't, then that energy will not disappear. That's true. That's the only part that's why. Oh, there, I can classify that as a half truth. Then is it will change into heat, energy, and it might change into energy that can be consumed by the environment or whatever. But it won't. It won't be me anymore in any level or any. The whole me is because of the structure that it has. Otherwise, there won't be a me. If my brain is not maintained, then the me is not maintained. And unless they have a way to show that it is, which they don't. So Gary Schwartz here. Put his, link to his Amazon there. Yeah, I mean, just complete fraud. I don't see any evidence of him being a doctor of anything, let alone the massive amounts of doctorates that they award this person on the Soul Phone Foundation. This is nothing more than another repackaging of woo to sell to people that are looking for comfort and looking for a way to talk to the dead and all that. That this is just a lie. And I said, the guy on the non sequitur was like, oh yeah, we like when skeptics ask us questions. Yeah, how about the question of where's all the research that you talked about on your website? Because there wasn't any at all. There was no anything. But they claim that Gary Schwartz is a professor of psychology, medicine, neurology, psychiatry, and surgery at the University of Arizona. I've never heard somebody that is all of those things at the same time. But okay, I'm pretty sure that the University of Arizona could verify that. So is he really any of those things at that university? And is he actually a doctor? And, again, I would think if he was a doctor, it would say that on his books thing. But, I think that this guy's, a scam artist. I mean, it's just, what's Wikipedia? Not that that's very trusted. He's a parapsychologist, author, and professor. He is a professor at the University of Arizona, according to Wiki. And director of his laboratory for advances in consciousness and health. The fuck is that? He researches the veracity of mediums and energy healing. Why does the university support this? Why are they wasting money on this? Oh, he has received a PhD. It's okay. Oh, and it is in psychiatry, according to Wiki. So, hey, I was wrong about that. He does have some stuff. So, but this is just, no matter how well accredited the person is, this website is a load of shit, and the proof of that is in their little skeptic corner, because it it has questions that then give answers that are themselves not supported. So, I mean, if they ever get if the Non Sequitur show gets this Dr. Gary on, I hope they ask him to support any of these assertions and to explain how this website that he's somehow a part of has these bullshit claims that are not true. And any mediums have never been shown to be anything other than fraud. So where's that 20-year study or different studies over the course of 20 years? I love the fact that you can donate to this, but they're not ready to show any of the data to the public. Yeah, When will you be ready? Yeah, never is the answer to that. They will never ever be ready, because that's the game is the con is the long con, and the game is to just drag people's hope along that this is really being done, and to say things that sound real, like quantum this and energy that, and whatever other woo you can say and get away with, and to pretend like you're doing real science when you aren't. I guarantee if I was able to go to this university in Arizona and get and claim to be a medium, that I could fool Gary into thinking I was a medium if I got studied. I guarantee it. I guarantee that anyone could, because there's no way to tell a real from a fake medium, because they're all fake. And I doubt very much they have any sort of controls in place or anything of that nature. And none of that is on the website either that I saw. So, yeah, it's bullshit. Bottom line. So it's interesting that that they would, I guess that they want to get the news out that they exist, so they got the Non Sequitur show somehow, like, to give them attention, or vice versa. I'm not sure. Because I found a website about this thing claiming something triangles this and triangles that, that's at a similar nonsense level. But when you've got people that have degrees and it seems like they're a person of authority, then that led some credence to the thing. And the thing with paranormal investigation is it's always just like basically a waste of time. There's nothing to it. You can't investigate what's not there. You'd have to, how would okay, so you're gonna investigate a mediums, let's say. Okay, so people that claim to talk to the dead. Well, I had a question in the Non Sequitur thing, but it didn't get asked because the guy had to leave or whatever. But is your soul bound by space and time? If the answer is no, then I can talk to myself, because I'm dead in the future. So I just want to call up myself and talk to myself right now. And could I tell myself things that are going to happen? Could I tell myself how to avoid my own death? Would that create a paradox? And if you can talk to somebody's soul, why do you have to wait till they're dead? Why can't you talk to them when they're alive? Why couldn't I communicate with somebody's soul that's alive right now? Those are the kind of questions that could not hope to be answered by these mediums, because there isn't an answer. They'd have to give some BS answer that would be different for every single one of them. They'd have a different answer for that question, or they wouldn't answer it, or a combination thereof, or their answer would be word salad. And the methodology would be cold or hot reading. That's all it would be. That's it. That's it. That's all it would be. It would never be anything else. And the moment that you put even the simplest of controls on these people, the magic goes away, because it's all tricks and it's not real stuff. If you could talk to people that were gone, there's, well, why are you only talking to people that speak English? Let's get you to talk to somebody that speaks in a very unusual language and have a translator that knows that language in the room with me to see whether or not you're actually talking that language. Oh, no, I can't do that, because, they'd come up with all sorts of reasons why they couldn't do that. Of course, because they can't speak a different language. It's like, even if you picked like, something like Chinese, like a variant of Chinese or something, if you knew that medium didn't know that language, that's how you would test it. Just have them speak something that's not English. There you go. or heck, just have them ask the dead, what's under this box, and they claim that of course the NDE was brought up in the thing, and oh yeah, those things have been shown to be true. No, they've never been shown to be true. All NDEs that have actually been tested by real hospitals that were like interested in it, like they would have above the surgery tables in a lot of in some hospitals, they had taped to the ceiling a piece of paper that you couldn't see through it, but on the reverse side was some symbol or words or whatever, and only one person in the hospital knew what it was. So if they had the person go into death or near death and come back and say that they saw themselves outside their body, they'd ask them what was on the paper, and then they'd say, okay, let's record that and call up the person that knows and say, hey, they said that blah was on the paper. Is blah on the paper? And they'd be like, nope, every time. And then, some hospitals had a box on the shelf with different objects inside for the person to go look into. The box is open from the top, but nobody's allowed to go up on that shelf and look in there, or until after the person says what's in there, and then they go, nope, none of that stuff's in there. And then somebody else changes out what's in the box. So over and over again, NDE has never been shown to be a real thing. Yet the guy claims that it has been without any evidence that it has been. So it's just, it's lies. The Prodigy was there with us during the non sequitur. The Soul Man ran for cover and they started talking about science. Oh, they did air my question on the show. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, because they ran out of time with him, they were just trying to ask him, the sort of, they're trying to lay the groundwork for him, I guess, so that he could, put out enough rope to hang himself with. But I think they should have gone straight to the questions. But I mean, ultimately, they do whatever they want to do. I don't know, but I mean, for me, it's very cut and dry. The fact that, if this was if they said that this switch, whatever the hell that's supposed to be, this thing that you can ask questions, the yes or no questions, if that was at 90%, there's no reason why they couldn't take that to a major lab and get it studied and get all sorts of grants and funding for it. And they wouldn't have to worry about patenting the damn thing or anything like that, because you have, or you could patent it as you're getting it studied anyway. So there's really no excuse. And ultimately, the ethics of withholding that from the public, if you really thought that you had a way to talk to people that were dead, and you were going to charge their fee for that, where the hell is your morals? You would win a Nobel Prize. That's $1 million right there. If you actually had a thing that could do that, you would win at least one Nobel Prize, and with that comes $1 million. So you don't need to ask for money at that point. All you have to do is demonstrate that the damn thing works, and you know that the Nobel Prize is coming. So it can be absolutely free to, you don't have to copyright a damn thing. It can be free to the public, because all you have to do is prove you're the first to come up with the idea and show how it works. And then you sit back and you wait for the Nobel Prize, because you know it's coming, because you have the proof. So, they're not ready, but they have a way to donate. They have a Soul Phone overview. Soul Switch. The first device is a binary switch to allow PMPs to communicate with humans by signaling yes, no answer. What the hell is a PMP? Pimp? A working prototype of the Soul Switch can be used with a 20 questions format. With a judicious choice of questions, we should be first able to demonstrate with whom we're communicating. Accurate, reliable, yes, no answer should allow good. Yeah, okay, sure. Show us that. Oh, it's not ready yet, right? Soul keyboard, Soul voice, Soul videos. So yeah, here's the overview. You don't get to see what it looks like. You don't get to see anything more about it. So yeah. But here's presentations and interviews. Here's how you can help for gifts and donations. And make donations, become a member, gift benefits, memorial page, volunteer. Is spirit real? A scientific perspective. So, here's this guy talking to a bunch of people, extraordinary ideas and evidence. The 5-finger test, whatever the hell this is. And then, he's this Gary Schwartz fellow, I think that this is what happened. He got a degree in psychology and psychiatry. He didn't do anything with it. His career failed. And so he decided to go to the university and say, oh, I want to test mediums. And for whatever stupid reason, they let him do it. And, he's not making a lot of money doing that. So, not making a lot of money from the books. So maybe he's like, oh, this is a way to make some money on the side, or get some notice to my books again. And, it's a way to scam people. It's all it is. I mean, just say it for what it is. It's a scam. And he'd have to know that it was a scam. I mean, this isn't a case where the guy believes it himself. But there you go. The skeptic corner right there. Question 2 blows it out of the water for me. Question 3, is all the information received by mediums vague in general, applicable to anyone? Yes. No, in fact, the researcher clearly... What research? Website? Research clearly indicates that a skilled evidential mediums typically receive information which is highly specific to individuals and their deceased loved ones. Yeah, sure, by doing cold or hot readings. I'm sure I could do that too. The information includes specific names, causes of death, birthdays, professions, hobbies, personal preferences, etc. Sure, after how many false guesses? Like, does the name Kevin, does that mean anything to anyone? Does it start with an M or a K? Did they have a hard time breathing? Yeah. And then, yeah, sure. Right. Bullshit. The specificity of the information obtained in multi-blinded control experiments, which we didn't, where and when have those experiments been done? They just refer you back to question 2, which also didn't have any citations. Rules out the related skeptical concern that maybe all the findings in mediumship research might be explained as reflected-based readings of grieving people. See also the answer to question 4. No, you haven't given us an answer. You haven't given us a damn anything. I can make a website that says this. You've given us nothing to go on. Nothing. Okay. I realized I wasn't even sharing the screen of the website that I was looking at. So, question 4: can all the findings be explained by non-spiritual paranormal mechanisms? For example, the hypothesis of medium reading the mind of the sitter client rather than the person in spirit. No! Evidential mediums typically do not pick up information which is clearly in the mind of the sitter. For example, these mediums will often give the sitter certain information that they will not give them information that they hope to receive. They will often bring through deceased people the sitter was not expecting or hoping to hear from. Moreover, they will often bring through information the sitter does not know firsthand, requiring sitter the contact of their family members or friends who will then subsequently confirm the information was accurate. I could do this too. This is not hard to do. They will also sometimes bring through, I love that, bring through accurate information that relates to future events, or events unknown, and it's only confirmed at a later time. Sure, right. Where's all the data for any of that? Nothing. No data. No citation. No anything. This is easy to do. Anyone could do this. So there's a number of tricks that your mind is playing on you if you're gullible enough to think that any of this is real or could even possibly be real. Is if I start to ask you questions, you're like, oh, did Jim Bob, he said he died from, a heart attack. No, I don't remember that. Let me call my mom, and well, do you call your mom right then and there, or do you call them later? Because if you call them later, you might not remember the exact phrasing. You might, did Uncle Jimmy Joe Bob, did they suffer from something to do with the heart? Oh, yeah. They had a bypass, and that's what killed them, is the bypass failed. So you forgot that it was, a heart like attack. So you'll, because you forget things. So unless you did it right then and there, and unless you were keeping notes during the session and or recording the session, you're going to be relying on your memory. So yeah, if that's all you're relying on, then yeah. And then there's also the prompting of a question. If I ask you a question, even if you don't know the answer to it, you're more than likely to give me an answer. So they've done this many times. Programs have done the ask people on the street sort of thing. And they'll ask people ridiculous questions that aren't true, and people will give them answers, even though it's, have you heard about Trump signing a trade deal with South Korea to trade slaves? How do you feel about that? And people will give you answers to that question as if they really have heard about it. And then they'll even, some people will even make claims that they heard somebody say something about it. And there's all sorts of explanations for why people lie on TV, and then later they'll be like, oh, no, I didn't lie. What are you talking about? I don't even, they won't even know what the hell you're talking about later, because they were just there's all sorts of psychological things going on when you're asking somebody a question. That's why in logic you learn that all questions contain premises. To even ask the question about spirit requires that I'm assuming that there's a spirit to ask a question about. And if you answer the question, you're implicitly agreeing with my assertion that there's a spirit, because otherwise I can't ask the question. So that's where you get loaded questions from, and why you have to unpack the question, because it contains all sorts of premises. So could the findings be explained by non-spiritual, non-paranormal mechanisms? Yes, but that also implicitly assumes that there is a spiritual and or paranormal thing at all that is an alternate explanation in the first place. So just by asking this question, you're allowing these things to exist potentially. Is there anything that shows me that there's a spiritual or paranormal in and of itself in the first place? That's the question. That question removes the possibility of those things existing, because I'm asking about those things specifically. Then, after I get the answer to that, I could ask a question like this. Is the hypothesized energy of the spirit too weak to be detected with state-of-the-art technology? Well, how do we even know that there's energy from a spirit? And what's a spirit? How do we know that there's energy at all? Why assume that? What about the claim spirit equaled energy? See, there's implicit ideas embedded in the question already There's already the idea that there's a spirit to even talk about. And then there's the idea that there's energy that the spirit has to emanate. How would any of that work? Where's the energy coming from? Oh, it's coming from the spirit. Well, how do you know that? How in the hell do you know that? Contemporary technology includes super-sensitive sensors that can detect single photons of light generated by individual molecules in pitch black environment. Ultra-sensitive magnetic sensors can detect these things, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure. Okay, there's all sorts of ways to detect stuff, but none of that answered how you would tell the difference between the energy produced by a magnet and the energy produced by a soul or a spirit. Finally, many experiments such as using such equipment, what equipment? Like this equipment? The equipment that you referred to here, but you didn't tell us what the equipment was. I mean, you said ultra-sensitive magnetic sensors, great, but you didn't tell me what the hell is the name of that equipment that you're talking about that's using that technology. Document the technology is sensitive to detect the presence of energy. Okay, sure. I'm sure that there is equipment that can detect energy of spirit. How do you know it's spirit? Under controlled conditions in low noise environment. Okay, so you have a low noise environment, which is like you go underground and, you know, where they would detect, you know, trying to detect dark matter and weird stuff like that, because there's all sorts of radiation, you know, and stuff. So you have to go down, 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 deep underground to do this. So I'm sure that they have that lab, right? That's like however many, I think 100 some odd feet. It's more than that, I think. It's way underground that they have these sort of things. Yeah, they totally have access to that technology because they have enough money for that, right? Yeah. I don't believe that for a moment. But let's just say that you did. Okay. And you created a vacuum, so you get rid of more stuff that way. Well, there's another problem that's in quantum physics, where when you remove all the stuff from the environment, you make it pitch black, you have a vacuum, you get rid of all the radiation and everything, that state of what we might call nothingness actually begins to do stuff. So you can never get rid of all background energy, apparently, because when you do that, things become unstable. And you know, there, you know, Lawrence Krauss has a whole book on that I don't hope to understand anytime soon. But you know, and then when you put two metal plates really close together, like, you get all sorts of weird stuff happening because reasons that I don't understand in science. So how in the hell would you ever get to a low enough noise that you could absolutely say that it's not caused by any mundane phenomenon? But I guess soul wouldn't be supernatural. If you could measure it, then it would be mundane. But how do you know that it's a spirit of a person at all? How do you identify that? Like, is the energy in the shape of a person? Can the findings suggest the technology is detecting the presence of spirits be plausibly explained as caused by the mind of the experimenters? Yeah, exactly. The experimenters themselves are biased, perhaps, to finding certain things. But no, the answer is no. We don't have that data, but we're just going to say that the answer is no. Controlled parapsychological research on micro whatever the fuck they're saying here, I don't know, psychokinesis indicates that some people can have sensitive effects on sensitive electronic equipment. What? These effects are typically much smaller and less reliable and robust. So they okay. Okay. So the equipment itself, like, if I think hard enough, that could affect the equipment. And that's the other thing. Again, with the how would it not detect my soul? That's right there in the room with the damn equipment. If it can detect a soul or a spirit at all, why the hell wouldn't it detect mine? I'm right there. I have why? Because my body shields it or something? What I mean, what would the explanation possibly be? Moreover, spirit detection effects have been replicated using completely computer automated equipment where the instructions are presented via PowerPoint. What? Where's this study? Where's the data? What are you talking about? Where is this? Where's any of this done? Show me. You're just saying that this stuff has been done. This is the skeptic corner. There's nothing here. Ugh. Okay, I'm almost done. Am I almost done? I am almost done. 2 more, and then I'll look at the chat. No, I'll look at the chat now. Casimir effect. Para. What? I don't know. I'm not aware of this Casimir effect. Okay, that's what you're talking about with the quantum thingy and all that. Okay. What's fun? You start voluntary control. What is this? I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, so the Casimir effect is what I was talking about when you have the two plates close together. That's how you get virtual particles from nothing. Yeah, the what nothing is not what we thought nothing was. So we need a new word. I call it N2, Lawrence's 2 or something. But what studies are they talking about in this website? What the hell are they referring to in this website? Because there's not a single. You get to the bottom of the page, there's not a single link. There's nothing. There's no in this book, in this article, in this thing. There's nothing. There's absolutely no citation. There's not even a wiki article. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing to say. I don't even know what they're talking about. Spirit detection effects have been replicated using completely computer automated equipment where the instructions are presented via PowerPoint, including digitally recorded instructions by the experimenter, and no experimenters are physically present when data is collected. Okay, so they're trying to remove the person from the equipment so that the person themselves, so that their soul, their spirit doesn't get detected by the thing. Hey, that actually makes sense. Okay, great, fine. But where is that? Show me. Why isn't there like a video of somebody doing that? There's nothing. There's nothing but text. And the text isn't sourced. Like, who did this study? When? Where? Under what conditions? Okay, you told me how they could do it, but you didn't show me anything. That's not good enough for the skeptic. Okay? Your pretend skeptic corner is really, it's kind of like Christian apologetics. It's not for the non-believer. It's for the believer or the person that kind of wants to believe, but they need a little bit of push and be like, oh, well, that question was answered. Can all the findings for mediumship and technology be explained as due to experimenter fraud? Yeah, probably. No, there's two primary reasons for this. First, to fabricate all these findings. What findings? What findings? What findings? Would require sophisticated collusion between multiple experimenters, mediums, and subjects, which is not beyond the realm of possibility, but I'd love to know what findings you're talking about. Such a level of collusion would be unwieldy, is highly risky. Oh, okay, but who are you talking about? What mediums? What subjects? What experimenters? When? Where? No, nothing? Okay, okay. Second, survival of consciousness and spirit communication research are inherently highly controversial. Yeah, no kidding. Scientists engaged in such controversial and visible research are putting their careers and reputations on the line. To engage in such deliberate fraud is utterly foolish. Unless you're this guy who, yeah, he's got his own Wikipedia page, but, I don't think he has anything to preserve. He's already a parapsychologist. That's not well respected, and your books are all BS books anyways. So you don't have a reputation to hurt. So, you're not going to be worried about ruining a reputation when you're already in a field of woo-woo anyways, where, of course, the real scientists are going to call bullshit, and then you're going to be like, well, they don't know because they haven't looked at my thing yet, the data that I haven't produced, because, whatever bullshit you're going to say. How science is discovering God in everything, including us. Oh, my word. Oh, God. Harvard University educated. He might be. I don't know. There we go again with the open-minded skeptic. It's so interesting that they do this. See, it's a very interesting ploy. Look, here's the thing about a skeptic. Okay, I have a criteria, a very simple one that I've lived by for the past 7 some odd years now. And if you meet the criteria, then okay, great. But so far, none of this bullshit has ever met the criteria. Empirical evidence. So can I view God directly? No, I can't. Whatever God is apparently undetectable by any methodology, whether it's technology or my own eyeballs. Okay, so it fails that one. Can I test this thing called God? Apparently not. Pretty much every religion ever has said that I'm not allowed to test God. So the answer is no. Or the answer is you have to be part of the religion to test God, and that's the test of God, or something stupid like that. And then the third one is, do they have a valid and sound argument? No, they don't. They don't. They don't have, we're seeing that unfold here. There's no arguments at all, no data, no citations, no anything. So the answer is definitely no for that. So they failed all 3 of my criteria, so I'm still skeptical about them until they fulfill one of those things. That doesn't make me closed-minded. It just means you didn't pass my damn filter. So, yeah. But this is the open-minded skeptic is not talking about skeptics. It's talking about the person that might want to believe that this is true, that feels a little bit unsure, but they need some reassurance. And you're telling them, if you're really open-minded, you'll look into this further. You'll read this book. But if you're closed-minded, you'll just discount this book, see? So if you're open-minded, yeah, you can be a skeptic, but you got to read the book first. And then you'll understand why, I've got a book, How to Make $1 Million, only $99.95. So who wants to buy my book? It's a very short book. I just need to sell a number of them. And then the book itself just says to sell the book, for $99.95 to a bunch of idiots. But you have to buy the book to find out that that's what the book says. But, he was not trained to consider the nature of God. And yet, his scientific research led him directly to the discovery of God's existence in intelligent evolution and everyday life. You mean ID? Do you mean ID by intelligent evolution? Is that what you mean? So you're going to discredit yourself further? Scientifically rigorous and spiritually reassuring, this eye-opening book is a wake-up call to anyone who wonders about life's true meaning and who longs to believe in the existence of a universal intelligence. Right. If you really want to believe it, this book might help you to continue to believe it. Wow, why is this in Spanish? What the bleep? GOD. Why is it GOD? Like, wow, all these people that are giving positive reviews, clearly not atheists. But yeah, I mean, again, Okay, whatever. So yeah, you are a fraud, and why would you care that you're a fraud? Because you're just being a fraud here. So why would you care about being a fraud over here? Can specific spirits actively collaborate in soulful research and follow precise instructions provided by experimenters? Yes. That's nice. Prove it. As implied above, just as people in physical can participate in systematic research by following instructions and contribute to knowledge, the state capacity applies to motivated individual spirits. The totality of the experimental findings combining evidence from mediumship research and spiritual communication technology research indicates that intelligent, caring, creative persons in spirit can choose to become responsible. We'll get back to that. Collaborators in this. Such collaboration required research to be successful. So, this is their get out of jail free part 2. So, see, if the spirit doesn't choose to be part of this research, like maybe Einstein, he was like on board for the first few days, but then he's like, look, I got better things to do, guys. I don't want to be part of this anymore. Well, he chose to not be part of this. Can't question. Sorry, we can't talk to Einstein anymore. He doesn't want to answer our calls. When we combine the answers to the 8 questions that we didn't provide any sources for, it becomes clear that the scientific theory. No, it doesn't. Mediumship research, which is you didn't link to that either, and technology research, which you didn't link to, all point to the promise of the development of spiritual communication technology. No, it doesn't at all. You didn't provide anything, so you can't say that this did that when it didn't do that. This is a non sequitur. Meanwhile, in the subsequent essay, you want me to analyze this as an essay? Okay. I will address the topic of pseudo-skepticism. Of course you will. Of course you will, you fraud. And I will illustrate the distinguishes. Oh, God. Yeah, so basically you're going to work to try to disprove actual legitimate skeptics and thereby prop up your pseudoscience by trying to discredit actual real skeptics. Here's the thing. I have no professionalness to my name. No degree, I'm an amateur logician at best. I know informal logic at an amateur level. That's my claim. Because I don't want to claim a higher level because, I'm not sure how good I am at that. Okay? But I've seen through your bullshit because you have zero anything here. Nothing is provided. And the guy that you're talking about has a bunch of bullshit books that are just more bullshit. Like maybe the placebo one isn't. I don't know. That might actually be a legitimate book. So maybe one book out of all your other crap books. Energy healing experiments, bullshit, truth about medium. Yeah, it's fraud. That's the truth. There you go. Okay, so, all right, I'm done reading that page.